is a bittersweet Mother's Day for me, as it is likely the last one I'll spend with my daughter living at home. In just a few months, you see, she'll be away at college, and as a student, I know she might have obligations that don't include me on that second weekend of May, right before final exams. As my own grandma used to say, every step a child takes is away from its mother. That's the bitter part of it, but it's also very sweet watching my daughter find her place in the world. I've dreamed of a bright future for her, doing my best to prepare her, and it is a joy to watch her begin this next phase of her journey. It's terrifying too. I try not to think about every possible thing that could happen, but that's kind of what mothers do. At least I think other mothers do this, based upon a certain throw pillow that used to live on the couch in my old college apartment, on which was cross-stitched this message: call your mother, she worries. I don't even know which one of my roommates' mother had given her daughter that pillow, but as a result, 4 young women were subjected to seeing that message each and every time any of us ventured into the living room. I'm not sure it made any of us call our mothers any more often than our pillowless peers, but it sure beat that message into our heads. As much as I like the idea of my daughter calling me, and often, I'm not sure that's the message I would choose to cross-stitch into her dorm room decor. I don't want her to think of me as being in a constant state of worry for her. That's not a useful message. But I do like the idea of sending children off with a message, a few words that can center them, reminding them of what is important on those days that test them. It's a very Jesus-y thing to do, as it turns out. We're not told whether Jesus had any kids of his own, but he did see his closest followers as his spiritual children. And when it became clear that his time with them was drawing to a close, he gave them a few words that would guide them in the days and years to come when they would have to navigate life without him. He shared his parting words with them at the supper table on a Thursday night, his last one. After years of pouring love and wisdom into his beloved friends, these final hours together were of the greatest importance. Jesus chose his words carefully. Like a wise parent, he reminded them that the way of life he had shown them was the way of truth and life for them to follow always. His way of living in close relationship with God and with others was the only way they would satisfy their deepest longings. Like adoring children, they hung onto his every word, but like real children, they struggled to understand. His overflowing wisdom was more than their small spiritual cups could hold, so he began speaking to the heart of the matter, giving them the simplest version of life advice that he could. What we're about to hear comes from John 14:15 through 21. It's a bit much to stitch onto a pillow, but after we hear it, maybe we can find a way to distill it to a word. Hear Jesus speaking to those closest to his heart. He said, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments. I will ask the Father, and he will send another companion who will be with you forever. This companion is the Spirit of truth, whom the world can't receive because it neither sees him nor recognizes him. You know him because he lives with you and will be with you. I won't leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Soon the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you will live too. On that day, you will know that I am in my Father, you are in me, and I am in you. Whoever has my commandments and keeps them loves me. Whoever loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love them and reveal myself to them. If you love me, you will keep my commandments." Is that Jesus' way of demanding that his disciples prove their love to him? Like a parent saying, "If you love me, you will call home every day. You know how much I worry." I don't think this is Jesus being needy or manipulative, though. I think he's simply stating a fact. His disciples will keep his commandments out of love for him. Another way of hearing it might be, "Because you love me, I know you will keep my commandments." Spoken with the assurance that comes from knowing he has successfully imparted both love and wisdom to his disciples. Of course they love him, therefore of course they will keep his commandments. Which were what exactly? Just before saying all of this, Jesus had given his followers what he called a new commandment, that they love one another. He said, "Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another." He'd circle back to those same words a few minutes later, telling them a second time, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." His disciples could hardly fail to miss the point. If they loved Jesus, no, because they loved Jesus, they would keep the commandment, loving one another as he had loved them. Friends, get your needles ready. Here's the message for the pillow. Love one another as I have loved you. And you know what loves look like because I've shown it to you. And now we're going to have to buy stock and both pillows and embroidery floss because we're getting too many words. How about just one word then? Love. That will do, I think. Because if there is but one message that the world needs, if there is one thing that will accomplish God's goal of saving the broken and hurting world, where people succumb each day to despair, firing shots into classrooms, cutting distress signals into their own flesh, if there is one way for God's will to be done here on earth, if there is one word that sums up what we need, all of humanity and all of creation, it is love. Love for God, love for each other, love for everything that lives and breathes, love for the things that walk and swim and fly and even crawl, love for the rivers that flow and the things that grow, love for everything on earth over which God breathed sacred breath, ruah, calling it into being and calling it good. Love one another as you have been loved. This is the spirit of all things, the essence of what makes the whole thing work, the purpose for which we have all been created. The God of love who chose to bring this world into being seems for all we know to have done so out of pure love, simply wanting to be in relationship with the likes of us, which is hard to understand, but then I think of how much I love my own child, and no matter what she could ever dream of doing, my love for her would be no less. And if humans are capable of loving this way, how much greater then is God's love for us? It was because of that great love that God chose to enter into tangible relationship with humans, becoming one of us, to know us and to be known by us, which had such a profound impact on those who got to know God in the person of Jesus. But the catch to knowing God in human form is, of course, that human form doesn't live forever. It's the great cost to love, as we know that eventually we will lose the ones we love the most. In the case of losing the physical incarnation of God, it would have been an unbearable loss except for this. Jesus gave his disciples one final gift that night, the assurance that he would be with them always forever in the companion, whom he also called the Spirit of Truth, which they would know because that very Spirit lived within them and would be with them. That essence, that Spirit, like the sacred breath filling their own lungs as close as their next breath, would not be taken from them. And that's what's been given to us also. Even though we weren't there to meet Jesus in the flesh, we too have inherited the Spirit of truth, the essence of Jesus, which lives on even now in those who keep his commandment of loving each other. We meet the Spirit, this essence of Jesus, this expression of God and how we are loved. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine, picture, recall the most unconditional love you have ever known, and that is not even as great as God's love for you. Because we are so loved, there is only one response: to love like that, to love each other like that, even when we disappoint each other, even when we disagree with each other, even when we dislike each other, as siblings have been known to do. We've all known families who were held together by a loving parent who have not managed to sustain their connection once the parent was gone. And Jesus knew that his disciples, with their incredibly diverse perspectives on life, were at high risk for falling into that category without him to tie them together. That's why he promised to send them what he called the Parakletos, a Greek word meaning someone who comes alongside someone else. In Greek culture, that word Parakletos meant something like a family attorney. We might picture the bereaved disciples sitting at a table to hear the Parakletos read to them from Jesus' last will and testament. And it said something like this: "My dearest disciples, I give you the inheritance early. It was love. Your spiritual bank accounts are filled with it. Do not hoard it. Just go and love one another. This is my commandment." That was it. Jesus' legacy, the final message he wanted them to have written on their hearts, if not stitched onto a pillow: love one another. This would be the way for them to keep him close, he who had brought them into deep relationship with God and each other. Even in his absence, they would be forever connected to God so long as they maintained love for each other. Love would be the thing that would keep Jesus alive the way our loved ones are kept alive when we keep doing what they taught us. Jesus' message has been handed down now for at least 100 generations as his spiritual children shared it with their spiritual children, and so on until now it's ours. What remains to be seen is what we will do with it. It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around can warm up in its glowing. That's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you spread God's love to everyone you want to pass it on. What wondrous time is spring, when all the trees are budding, the birds begin to sing, the flowers start their blooming. That's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you want to sing. It's fresh like spring, you want to pass it on. I wish for you, my friend, this happiness that I found. You can depend on God, it matters not where you're bound. I'll shout it from the mountain top, I want my world to know. The Lord of love has come to me, I want to pass it on. Go and do likewise.